The Democratic primary, it's a complicated thing. And so when I want objective analysis of how everyone's doing, I turn to Nate Silver on Twitter. I'm kidding. He's got a problem with certain candidates. I'm not gonna say who. Moulton. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't like Bernie. Obviously, he doesn't like Bernie. He's very good when it comes to the numbers. When he starts putting words around them, though, that's when it starts to get a little bit problematic. And so I want to read a couple of tweets that he sent out in attempting to respond to the new polling data that's been coming out, out and out about Bernie Sanders' diverse base of support, especially in comparison to all the other candidates, but especially the front runners. And so, how do you respond to that? Because the criticism last time had been that his base of support wasn't diverse enough. Now the evidence shows that it is. So presumably you learn and evolve and adapt. Or you could do this. Nate Silver tweeted, "Not sure Bernie should get credit for having more diverse support than last time, given that he has far less support than last time. A lot of voters have left him. White liberals have been particularly likely to leave him for Warren, so the residue of what's left is more diverse." And for some reason that I can't figure out, some people had an issue with him referring to the remaining diverse support of Bernie Sanders as a residue. Which isn't generally a term that we use for positive things. It's not like I ate almost all the ice cream, there's some delicious residue at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's not like, man, they plumbed most of the gold from that river. Now we've just got a little bit of golden residue. Generally, residue is disgusting. And so that was a poor choice of words, I think.
No, it was awful. And I am one who thinks like words matter and your intent doesn't necessarily matter as much as the impact. And like calling a group of people of color residue is just kind of gross. And like everyone should just, when you have a public platform, be willing to, speak, not speak, but be more careful about the words you choose to use. So it was weird. The point he was trying to make was that these people don't matter, even though they're more diverse than before. It's because there's less people overall. I get it. I guess I get the point he was trying to make. It was weird. Because even if you say what's left over, and which is essentially what he was trying to say, like this is just what's left over. It still doesn't take away the point was that like you're not connecting with these groups of people, right? That was the point initially. And then people are saying, no, now he is. And so then he was saying, no, they're just left over. Wouldn't it still matter that they are still left over? Doesn't that prove the point that maybe he is connecting better? Right, yeah.
I think so. I think if you come at things 90% just talking about numbers, it might seem like, well, if you were to plot out mathematically, if there were 5 types of people and you had 20 of each, and then suddenly we took away 20, but it all came from one group, then the rest would be a bigger percentage. Okay, mathematically that sort of makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in terms of the actual example you're trying to present. What you're saying is, he had a lot more support. Now he's losing the white liberals, and so what he's left over with looks more diverse. But what you're describing is a process where apparently when Bernie starts to lose people, the people who abandon him first are white liberals. So thereby, people who are not white liberals have a stronger, more durable attachment to Bernie Sanders. That's what you're describing. You're not describing it accurately.
Right, but that's the opposite of the point he's trying to make, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I find much of what he does on Twitter to be fascinating. And look, I criticize him a lot, not because I hate him or he's a stupid shill or whatever. I read his articles and things like that. I think it's interesting. I don't do the sports stuff, but that's not about him. That's about sports. But sometimes he has some interesting stuff. It's his analysis on top of it that is bad.
That was it didn't make any sense. It didn't prove the point I think he was trying to prove. I think that the idea that the base is smaller overall, but the people of color stayed, that proves the point that the initial poster, the initial tweet that he was pushing back on. So, and we've already like broken that down. And then also, words matter. Residue was weird.
Residue is just a terrible term.
It was a terrible term. And just over and over and over, like people have got to think. And sometimes everyone makes mistakes, but sometimes there's a reason you make certain mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got to be
Why you
willing
err
to
and-
look into that.
Exactly. Yeah. And look, if you want to,
And that's everybody. That's everybody across this political.
Me.
You don't make as many mistakes. Some.
I make
Some.
mistakes.
More than you should.
And I will
but-
continue to.
No, I'm just kidding. But
Apologies in
yeah,
advance.
I definitely think that was so weird, because think about it. When you think about like how people of color are referred to and talked about over the course of this election period, just how the president talks about them. It's just like, oh my goodness, at least can we not be residue from somebody on our side?
Yeah.
You know, I get it. It was a mistake, and I totally get what he was trying to say. I just shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to constantly understand what someone meant when they said something or did something derogatory to people who look like me.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to be supremely understanding if it's not going to be reciprocated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here you appear to have identified a potential problem that you won't tweet about, which would be, by your example, the two front runners, Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren, have potentially a problem where their newfound support is disproportionately white. That seems like something to analyze. And I can say that as a person who I don't despise Elizabeth Warren, but her support is more white as a percentage. That is a thing to discuss. It is not necessarily conducive to winning either the primary or the general election in the long run. So maybe consider talking about that a little bit. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.